Thing and going live. We'll see what that means in a second. As hopefully it's all fine, and the microphone's all fine. Hollow if it's not. Let's play. Hello and welcome to the LOP Radio Raw Review. It's not LOP Radio anymore, is it? It's Wrestling Headlines. Raw Review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on YouTube, and will also be available in podcast form later as well. Links in the description, or head over to WrestlingHeadlines.net for all your latest wrestling news. And we're onto the road to tables, ladders, chairs, and all of that stuff. Lovely. And the number one contenders match is setting up things to happen there. Site cancel here immediately. Nice to see you. Nice. So, immediate briefing for this Raw review. Imp is running on 4 hours sleep. It's currently midnight. Let's do this. Let's bang this out. Let's see how well this goes. So I might get a bit weird. Things might get a bit strange. A bit off track. Or entirely on track. Just if I because sometimes I've been this tired and done a show like this when I've tried tangents that I just end up stuttering into nothing. So we'll see. So this might include quite a few. I'll call them dead ends. It's like I'm going somewhere. It's like, oh wait, no, gotta just reverse out of there. And off we go down the road again. So that might be this show again. But it's the 1st of December. For me, it's already the 2nd of December for Advent Calendar Day episode of the Raw review. Let's get through it all. Well, to be fair, let's start with the main topic of the show, which was the number one contenders match. AJ Styles is the number one contender for tables, ladders and chairs for Drew McIntyre's WWE Championship after the triple threat match against, if I can scroll down to it, the Keith Lee, AJ Styles and Matt Riddle. It was announced as a sudden death triple threat match. Because they're not going to do... it's good for one fall, mate. It's what it is. But yeah. So in terms of this, I am excited for AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. I feel like Drew McIntyre himself saying this match is going to be phenomenal and putting it over like that. I like Drew McIntyre not running down his opponent. He's building him up as well as... I was going to knock him down later in subsequent weeks, but Drew McIntyre tonight was like, no, it's AJ Styles. Like, he's a really good wrestler. We'll have a hell of a contest. Like, yeah, as a true babyface champion, I like that. He's not running down the baddie because he's a baddie. He's not going to go through bullet point critiques of his characters. Like, no, he's a fantastic wrestler, first and foremost. Like, I like that. Just there's little bits of character that have seeped into like WWE's characters that weren't here before this year to accidentally rhyme. So it's great to see them like creeping in with this little thing. There's still sort of like massive issues now then with the continuity of, especially like just pretend you haven't been watching more than 3 weeks, as in if you've got like a memory wipe after each point, and WWE's amazing. You won't spot so many things. But this year has been so much better for those critiques that I have. So that stuff, and there's another example here with the Drew McIntyre AJ Styles exchange building to. It was a light build, which is another thing as well. Just kind of progressing it nicely. Because it can't be that long to TLC. I've not actually checked when it is. Actually, if I get that up, and hopefully my laptop doesn't have a meltdown as I'm doing it. TLC 2020. TLC 2020, it takes place on 20th of December. Ah, cool. I was jokingly going to take the week off of Christmas. Let me figure that out. 20th is, it's the week of Christmas, isn't it? Because Christmas is on a Friday this year. Oh, cool. Yeah, so, I'll do TLC. Oh, I'm going to be tired for Christmas. So, English fans are going to be tired for Christmas. But I won't do Raw and NXT that week. I think that's smart. Otherwise, I'm going to be done. So it's 2 weeks away. So we've got 2 more episodes of Raw after this. So I feel like, that's pretty good progression, really. That's fine. Perfectly fine progression to go from... Also, this will be a much more relaxed version of the Raw review. The tea just being held within shot. I was like, this is a... Imp's not got much left. Let's be chill kind of stream. With the build to TLC, they've got to kind of go through it, and I felt like this week was a kind of show of respect and then show of what could be used as an escalation point at the end of the show. Next week you get angry, and the week after that is proper contendership angry stuff. Yeah, it felt like it was a good idea, because I feel like they could have tried to do something big to try and really make you care, but this was, he's won a number one contenders match. Drew respects him as a wrestler, but now we get to see why he doesn't respect him as a person. As in, you show, don't tell. And that's what they've done here. So, applause for WWE. But the triple threat itself, Keith Lee, AJ Styles, and Matt Riddle. In terms of each person, I can't overstate how Lee's entire persona has really benefited. His whole presentation benefits so much from his own theme. It's just that one change, and it's meant so much to his presentation. Like, honestly, I think this has made me realise I was more annoyed with the generic Rock than I was like any of the other things I would complain about. It's like, actually, yeah, him doing his own song, just like he's done multiple times, everywhere else he's been, him doing his own song, it means so much to his character. You can see it in terms of the presentation and like the feeling of Keith Lee when he comes out. So that one change, I think it happened the Raw before Survivor Series, but it just really hit me. It's like, oh yeah, or was it either at Survivor Series or the one before it? It's just like, yeah, this means a lot. It means a lot to see it like that. Riddle as well. Riddle's getting character too. Before this match, he got 2 skits throughout the show into Keith Lee, rambling on, and Keith Lee walks away. Riddle then rambling into AJ Styles and Omar Bahin, and he keeps calling AJ Skipper, and Omar Bahin's like, huh, that's the name of his rabbit. Because I was like, what, you been talking to Riddle again? You know the name of his rabbit? I was like, well, that's stupid. Rabbits don't skip. You should have called him Hoppy. Hoppy's a rabbit's name. It's just Matt Riddle just like, I couldn't call him Hoppy because that was already the name of my turtle. This goes into another full-on thing. Personally, I don't mind this version of Matt Riddle. For people who want Matt Riddle to have a bit more of a serious presentation, maybe how to see him gets the heights we've seen him in both NXT and on the Indies as well. This is, he's very close to entering. I don't know. As long as he's serious in the ring, over time it might work. But short term, he's like the kind of goof, like the weed goofball backstage. And Rob Van Dam did a fantastic job with that balancing act. I'm interested to see how they do it with Matt Riddle. I don't trust the modern day writing team to be able to do it. As in, I fully expect them to lean way too far, and it won't be long. My expectation is to lean way too far into the stoner stuff, and it's not long before Matt Riddle he loses a bit of credibility, because that's what I expect of the recent years of WWE. But as I preface this whole bit with, I've seen little bits where there's mass amounts of little improvements. I wouldn't say the overall show. I'm not measuring Raw on like the same level I am NXT AEW yet. They're not anywhere near like worthy of that yet. Because when I talk about cons and pros or give a star rating to AEW NXT, it's like on a different scale. I think I said last week or a little bit before, I feel like if I'm doing it on stars, Raw's like 1 to 5, and NXT AEW I'm doing 5 to 10. Just as a little example, it's like its own different scaling system, really. But I would say Raw's made massive improvements. And the last 2 weeks, I generally just enjoyed the Raw show. I didn't have any fatigue points. I just enjoyed the shows. One massive part of that was less segments. This week, I think we got 9, if I scroll past. Yes, we got 9 segments this week. So that was like up by 2 or 3. Because the last 2 weeks, we've had like NXT numbers of segments, which is great. Personally, I've been loving that. But I can totally see part of that was having like lengthy matches in there. And now we've had those lengthy matches. And we saw this week for a lot of those segments, they've got nothing else. So, what do we do now? How do we keep these same wrestlers being in the same against the same opponents, but mixing it up somehow? And I wasn't massive on this week's show, to be totally honest. But the main event stuff was great, and I feel like that's fantastic to be able to say that. Again, I was used to years of moaning about it, so the fact that a lot of my both champions feel credible, which is fantastic. When was the last time that felt? They've nailed that. They've built them up both really well. They continue to do so. Drew continues to feel strong, and they're kind of building up the world around him of these are all the different ways Drew's kingdom could fall. It's like, oh yes, I like that. All the different people would be planning it, and likelihood is something will then happen, and the kingdom either doesn't fall or it does it in a certain way. But you've built up all these different roads and different things that could happen depending on what characters decide to do. It's like, yeah, it's all good stuff. For me, it's the mid-card that is feeling a bit but the main event is being nailed. And like most of the time, for most people, ultimately, that's the big deal. Like, if you drop the ball on the main event, an entire show can just... I mean, how many WWE pay-per-views these past few years have suffered from that? Where, and as you can tell, I'm in Tangent City. But if you have like the number of shows these past like 5 years or so where the card's been fine or it's been relatively strong, like take Hell in a Cell last year, starting with the amazing Becky Lynch Sasha Banks match, like it's almost forgotten because of the way it ended. Like the main event was the sour taste at the end of that show was what it will be remembered for. So if you're nailing your main event, that's a kind of your leaving note for the show, and they're doing that right now. And Drew McIntyre kicking ass as a champion, and they're building the world for his downfall. It's like if the Miz doesn't cash in at TLC, why does he have the briefcase? Putting it on Otis was a whim. There were multiple things over the summer where a lot of stuff was done on a whim, and now that they're a bit more, stable, producing it a bit more WWE able to do WWE style a bit more, be a bit more grounded, and they can progress their storylines a lot more naturally rather than like panicking week to week. Are we even going to have a show type stuff? Otis felt like a panic book. It was in the middle of that really weird era where they started debuting Retribution and Raw Underground, and suddenly Otis is Money in the Bank, and again it felt like a bit of a whim, and very quickly realised, crap, yeah. So Miz has got the briefcase because he's at least he's not Otis. I don't know. I think I'd rather he either loses it or he does win it at TLC and defeats Drew McIntyre. Sorry, he wins it at TLC either because Sheamus costs Drew McIntyre at TLC and that's when Miz comes in, and then it's Miz versus McIntyre at the Royal Rumble or something else. I wouldn't have Miz be champion. Personally, even if Miz just holds it for a month and Drew McIntyre beats him again or something strange or different, or Sheamus somehow becomes champion or something like that. Drew McIntyre doesn't even get a shot. It's Sheamus. I don't know. There's multiple ways he can go, but because there were talk of doing Randy Orton versus Edge for the title, and I'm just like, it's the same. A lot of the same issues keep cropping up. You got the opportunity to put the next generation over, and it's been how many years of kind of doing it, or you do it to one person who doesn't quite. The very main stuff was like a prime example of them realising they needed to do it, but they didn't build to it, and they had all the opportunities to put over that next generation. They just never did it. I'm on a tangent within a tangent. So it's really back to the triple threat match, and it was a great triple threat telly bout. All three coming off strong as the momentum swayed back and forth. A great spot with Riddle going for an armbar on Lee, who then just caught him in the power bomb, holding him one armed. And AJ charged in, only to have Riddle swung at him about to make sure to knock my light down. It had Keith Lee just swung Riddle at AJ Styles, who just swung at him by Keith, and AJ just crashed the mat. I love that. Lee had so many little great moments, making him look strong as hell. Both Styles and Riddle launched and pounced throughout this match, but the factor of the three men came into play in the end. AJ Styles' clash cut off. Keith Lee cut off on powering out of that. Riddle won a great strike exchange with AJ, who also successfully fought off Lee, but in doing so gave Styles just enough time to recover and fly in with a phenomenal forearm for the win. AJ Styles will face Drew McIntyre at TLC, and this was a great flowing match. And one of my least favourite style of triple threat is the where you've got two in the ring, one on the outside, and you swap. You just rotate. You keep going till one person's down, the other one slides in, rinse and repeat. That is my least favourite. But AJ Styles, it was part of one of my favourite triple threats in history. What's the bloody pay-per-view called? It was in TNA, the triple threat with Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe. That was fantastic. To be fair, the sequel's not bad either, but the industry has shifted so much since then that... Because that's one thing going back to that, Unbreakable from 2005, that's the pay-per-view. There's a lot, going back to TNA of that era, wrestling has shifted so much, it's the context I have to put it in is, imagine watching that style of wrestling that you're seeing in the main event today, during 2005 WWE, where it's big muscly Batista or big muscly John Cena doing their stuff, or you got JBL versus, I can't remember, Big Show in the main event, type of thing. Then in TNA, you're seeing Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe go at a triple threat at a neck break pace, and all three are in the ring at the same time, and it's causing so much havoc. It's all about wearing them all down. It's that's the context I have to put it in just to remember. It's seeing it at that time, it was whoa, it put TNA on the map. But so AJ Styles has got a history with fantastic triple threat matches. That was the tangent. That was the tangent I was trying to reverse off. But so this match was also really great. and they didn't do the 2 down for too long, and when they did, it was with the constant just alarm bell off of that third man's going to jump back in at any second. It wasn't that third man will tag in when the second one goes down. Except for the ending, technically, but it was as soon as he went down, AJ Styles was in. Like, no time for a breather. So, yeah. And in with a phenomenal forearm. Once again, capitalising with that forearm off a distraction or something. Turning the move into a nice heel capitalisation move. I like it. And his stuff with Omar Bahin as well. Once again, with Omar Bahin lifting him up onto the ring apron for them to charge in with a knee. So, second week in a row they've done that spot. Again, I like Omar Bahin's presence, aiding AJ Styles whilst he also never touches the opponents. So, yeah, all good. And later on in the show, we got the main event in terms of the WWE Championships. I guess it makes sense to jump to that, which does mean, yes, I think my final segment might be on Dana Brooke versus Mia Yim. Oh, it keeps happening. I end on Retribution. Even if I'm high on the show. It's like, the way I've ordered this, the last thing I was talking about is Retribution. Oh, done it again. Anyway, so before the main event, Drew McIntyre walked out to have a wee chinwag, a quick wah-wah with Charles Caruso. Drew talked about doing exactly what he said he would to Roman Reigns, because of course he wasn't on the show last week, so you've got to get your post-Survivor Series promo in humbling the tribal chief and knocking him off his pedestal. But looking to the future, he has no beef with AJ. He's the champion, and their match will be phenomenal. Total babyface. I love this. Remind me of top 90s babyface. I'd have to say that kind of thing. So yes, I love that. But the main event was the build-up earlier. Shall I actually talk about the Sheamus Miz Morrison thing? That's actually quite important to what happened here. So, Miz TV earlier in the night, because the match was Drew McIntyre and Sheamus versus John Morrison and The Miz. And earlier in the show, we had Sheamus on Miz TV, and Sheamus was all wanted to prepare for his match against the two, but Miz and Morrison had a goal here. First, they made Michael Flatley jokes. Timely with your 20-year-old Irish Riverdance, that's the word. Yeah, timely with your 20-year-old Riverdance references. As always, we do. Keep that 50+ demo. The two jokers tried to drive the wedge in Sheamus and Drew's relationship, specifically in the hope that the Irishman will turn on his friend in the main event so Miz can cash in the Money in the Bank contract. And it's you bought him a massive chest with a whacking great Claymore sword. What did he get you? Nothing. But Sheamus, with the great babyface line of, when I buy a present for someone, I don't immediately expect something in return. Quite often he started sentences like, that's the difference between me and you. It was all you and me. He started 2 or 3 sentences in this one segment with that. Also, this was the second talk show segment in the first hour. Damn it, D'Lo. But yes, Shamu obviously laughed off Miz and Morrison's attempts, turned the atmosphere a tad more seriously, and soon enough they were throwing fisticuffs. Miz and Morrison winning the numbers game and walloping the lad over the back with the briefcase. So Miz and Morrison, their tactic didn't work, and later on Caruso's like, well, that didn't work, have you got a backup plan for it? And they don't have one really. They say they do. It's like, yeah, of course we've got a backup strategy. Oh. And then Morrison comes up with an idea, and then off they pop. So yeah. Some people don't find Miz and Morrison funny. For me, that's kind of part of the point. Is that the jokes are meant to be bad, and they're having a crack. They're really enjoying themselves, but the jokes aren't actually they think they're funny. It's part of it. So yeah, that's why it's different to R-Truth. Obviously, R-Truth is meant to be a comedy thing, but Miz and Morrison, they think they're funny rather than this is WWE saying they are funny. If that makes any sense. They make it very blatant, really. It's not always with what you see. It's the way do the commentators laugh over it or not is the main point. If the commentators are laughing, then it's meant to be funny. If they're not, it's very it's good. It's very in your face, but they're not always blatantly linked. Whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's for me. Yeah. Anyway, Drew McIntyre and Sheamus in the main event. Let's get to that. Also, AJ Styles, after winning the match, was on commentary. Forgot there's one more important thing to note, if I can bloody find the segment. Miz and Morrison, earlier in the show, rolled up on AJ and Omar Bahin after AJ's win, and Morrison was holding a pie. A bit of a bribe to help him out in the main event. AJ agrees and happily takes the pie, of which Big Baheen goes, "That's not a pie. I'm trying to do deep voice, but not happening tonight. Wait, I have to do it in my normal voice. That's not a pie, that's a cupcake." Because he's big, because he's tall. Yeah, there was no gravel in my voice. That's not good. Let's just drink the tea. Lukewarm tea. Lovely jubbly. Alright, and I will sip it again later because I can feel my... I'm going to have to for the throat. Anyway, AJ Styles was on commentary. Miz and Morrison's attempted influence on Sheamus. The Money in the Bank teasers fully bubbling as the numbers slowly grow against the WWE champion. All for that. All it would take would be for Sheamus to turn and the champion would be completely isolated. But he didn't bite. The man stood by his long-time friend's side. Like, yeah, I mean, not 100%, like, they didn't do a massive blatant angle where he makes the choice, but Morrison launched him over the barricade and he was taken out for, like, the ending segment bit, or that, with all AJ Styles doing that stuff. So he was given a reason to be taken out, so it wasn't a choice that Sheamus made. So they can tease that for the coming weeks, and come TLC, that tease is there. Even if Sheamus runs on down, does he save Drew or not? Personally, I'd like to see them actually be friends. Because, again, this is what I was just saying there, where in not biting and immediately turning on Drew or anything, we get to see him be friends with Drew. Like, they've told us for weeks now how they're like brothers, but here in this main event, they're finally showing it. So that's great. Again, the show don't tell stuff. They've been telling us for ages, but now they're actually showing it. And the showing bit actually has to last, and this is where WWE fall quite a bit. I'll bring up the reference of Kevin Owens in the New Day. He joined them for 1 week before turning on them, so why would we care? Why would anyone care that he did it? Yeah. Anyway. But that's the case of point. I'd have Sheamus not turn on Drew through TLC. Maybe keep it going to the Royal Rumble or something. Do you want to repeat the Royal Rumble thing where he turns on them in the Royal Rumble costume there? I don't know. TLC might be a better place to do it because then you can build to WrestleMania better. Even though I'm a massive fan of show us instead of just telling us, and it's been weeks of telling us. I guess the issue is the weeks of telling us far outweigh the weeks of showing us. So yeah, again, it's not. At least they are showing us. That's an improvement over past years. As in past years, you'd get the build on this show, and maybe you'd get the turn next week. So it was like, oh my god, I can't believe he did it. And it's like, he gave us like 1 week of, at least he gave us a week of build. Whilst now I can say, no, for like, I want to say a couple of months they've been doing these Drew and Sheamus things, at least to the build to Survivor Series. It can't be it's whenever the draft was, wasn't it? Since the draft, they've been having Drew and Sheamus get across how they're best friends from years ago, and they have the interactions backstage every single week. You clearly get to see their friendship. You see the brotherhood between them. And this week was the first week you got to see them team together, so you saw it in action. At least they showed it in action. It's just I wouldn't mind it continuing a little longer, but I do understand you might have a WrestleMania build to get to, and they're building that up really nicely. Have Sheamus cost Drew, do something at WrestleMania. Plus, you got the added thing of Drew McIntyre putting Roman Reigns in his sights to get revenge what happened at Survivor Series, where Drew McIntyre just hit in that point of I had him beat, he had to call down Jey Uso. He went from Drew McIntyre saying that he saw a confident man walk into the ring, and slowly over the course of the match, he saw that confidence change to fear, and he needed Jey Uso to come down to come beat him. So, yeah. But that also means the character of Drew McIntyre might even have WrestleMania plans in his eyes to maybe go back to Roman Reigns for something. But if Sheamus then costs him that, and then he's facing Sheamus at WrestleMania, and it's all Sheamus' fault he doesn't get a thing of Reigns, then you're getting your Reigns build for Drew for next year as well. Again, massive applause. If that's what I would do, personally. Give Drew a, say, emotional match. I mean in terms of like, it's not all about gold or glory, but it's a relationship kind of rivalry with Sheamus this year. Then next year you do Drew versus Reigns, and hopefully you've not mucked it up by then. So yeah, that's what I do. But that is in the world of long-term booking, of which WWE doesn't really do. So you can expect normally everything they kind of teasing normally happens within a short window. So, yeah, we see all that stuff. Anyway, the match itself, the match built nicely. McIntyre at the end, it was really short though. I think the main event started with like 10 minutes left of the show. And McIntyre in the end was calling for the Claymore. Sheamus wanted in, but got pulled off the apron and chucked over the barricade, and the commentators sold it as if it was hard concrete. And so that's what it was, I guess. Let's keep it in kayfabe. And in flew AJ Styles once again, the phenomenal forearm to down the champion. And DQ, obviously, immediately. Miz is not happy. But AJ is shouting at Miz to cash in. But the lad's like busy yelling at AJ for costing him the match. Eventually, the three men get on board. Morrison with his Starship Pain. And Miz setting up for the skull crushing finale. I think he hit it, can't remember. But they took too long. And eventually, McIntyre was able to get back up and charge with the Claymore to take the lads out. AJ, by himself, knew the odds and bailed onto Omar-Behin's shoulder. He flipped over the ropes onto his shoulder. I thought that was great. Ending the show for me on the hilarious image of Drew standing tall in the ring whilst AJ's carried out on a big lad's shoulder, swinging his arms, like shouting how lucky, like, you're so lucky, Drew, that he's taking me away. It's like, I thought that was great. So you're so lucky, Drew, that this big man's saving me from giving you a beating. Why, I order. So yeah, I love that ending, and I'm all for AJ versus Drew. Like, such a perfect match up on paper. I'm excited for TLC, what you could do there, and I can actually message Ask the Wrestling Sorts to say you've actually got possible. No, I'm about to say message. I have to talk to him tomorrow. Yeah, we're playing FIFA tomorrow. Yeah, so yeah. Content for both that and for and my brain turns off. So anyway, I'm going to take one sip of this lukewarm tea and then I'll go through the rest of the show. Let's get that down. Yeah. Is there a button for me to? I'll look into that later. It doesn't matter. Anyway, a moment of bliss kicked off Monday Night Raw this week, and reports were coming out that this segment was not universally loved backstage as like a confirmed part of the show, but apparently it's a whole Vince McMahon thing all put together. Apparently some wanted it, didn't. Some thought the idea just wasn't that great. Others like, no, it just needs workshopping. Vince was fine with it apparently. But a moment of bliss with Randy Orton opened the show. Randy Orton playing the villain, explaining his entire plan before the save is made. So, like, assured of himself that he's blending in. He's in control as normal. Alexa pretty much with the simple question, are you though? Are you sure about that? And yes, TLC with Veteran versus Veteran. Can't wait for it. So yes, the Fiend arrives like Randy Orton wanted, reassuring himself that he's found the Fiend's weakness just like he did with Bray all those years ago. But when the lights come back up, Bliss was being carried by Orton, who calmly walked up to the Fiend and passed her over before pissing off quickly. And again, I assumed the point of this segment was to raise who's actually in control. That's what the dialogue told me. It was who's in control. And Randy Orton's like, I found it. And Alexa Bliss says, have you though? Fiend shows up. She's in his arms, gets passed over to the Fiend. And as I thought the entire segment was, that made Randy Orton feel like he's in control. But is he? That's how I took away the segment. Until the commentators started immediately explaining into our ears. So, just with the line of like, looks like Randy Orton's found that weakness. And it's Alexa Bliss. So, am I overcomplicating the story here? Am I reading too much into it? So, yeah. Reading the comments again. At least AJ Styles got his peach pie. He did. He got his big ass peach cupcake to dive into. So yeah. So if you're like, the kind of line I take again is, if you're ever wondering what for definite is the story they're telling, just go with what the commentators are saying. More often than not, that is what they were aiming for. Because quite often it's lost in translation, and then if you listen to the commentators, they explain it. Or you can be like, oh, this is awesome, this is great, and then I listen to the commentators, like, oh, they're not talking about any of that. None of that's relevant. So, yeah. It doesn't help that sometimes they purposely don't have commentators pick up on things. But that's not a consistent trait, I'd say, of WWE. But yeah, so I was a little bit like, I really enjoyed that. Randy Orton thinks he's in control, but is he really? And then the comments go, no, he is. So, okay then. I was interested in that, in the two playing a game where Randy Orton generally thinks he's winning, but the Fiend's playing that longer game. Like, he knows what he's doing. He needs to give Randy Orton control, so he can trick him into thinking he's got it. I mean, it is how it'll play out. But I always, with WWE again, I try not to overthink it in my head and just, well, wait, what did Tom say? What did Tom Phillips say when it ended? If I listen to that, I was like, oh, okay, pretty simple. Yeah. So, hopefully, I hope it's more complex than that, and it was does he actually have control, though? I wouldn't like it to be Randy Orton's got his number, he's the first man to control him. It's like, that's a bit more simple than I'd personally like. They can run it, it can work it. Like, personally, the TV stuff with the Fiend is easy when he's at his best, and then quite often when he comes to pay-per-views, it's fine. But I like the mind games overall. Anyway, the opposite of mind games, it's a symphony of destruction. Jeff Hardy versus Elias. A fun old brawl with musical instruments for weapons, packed in with 24/7 randomness before the ad break. Because, yeah, of course R-Truth's hiding in a piano. Of course he is. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you fall, pun pretty much intended, this match will be remembered for the dangerous final spot. Jeff Hardy going to Swanton Bomb off the ring post through some tables on the outside, but they were between the steps and the barricade, aka really not enough room for such a landing. Well, definitely safely do that rotation, especially. Hardy's head landing inches away from like real damage on the final steel step, or the first, depending which way you're walking, as he crashed through the table. Like, luckily he's fine and immediately started playing a tambourine. But like, bloody hell, that looked scary for a second. You just saw him rotate over, land, and it's like, oh crap, like he could have been like right on the edge there. As in, if he had maybe landed a bit flatter, it would have been on the edge. That is like crazy lucky type of stuff. But yeah, of course Jeff Hardy has a near like crazily dangerous accident and just immediately starts playing the tambourine. Of course he does. Is there anything more Jeff Hardy? The match beforehand was packed full of silliness. Wolverine guitar picks punch, I popped for that. Drum roll into a donk on the head, like I like that as well. A knee charge into a gong. Why not? It didn't end there either. We got a guitar shot to counter the Whisper in the Wind. Electric shock via amplifier. Just a little note, if I'm right, he went in with the guitar, which is made of wood. How did he get electrocuted? And also, it's a science question. And of course, big boy cello to the back. Personally, I was all down for this silliness. My number one thing with this sort of thing is put it in your first hour. If you don't put it in your first hour, I'm likely to feel negative about it, and it'll feel a bit like silly filler. But if you put it in your first hour, I'm fine with it. Second segment for me is perfect. Just like the match at Hell in a Cell, like after an opening more serious bit, then you have Hardy and Elias go out there. I mean, I can understand why a lot of people might be tired of the feud, because Hardy versus Elias feels like the kind of feud that's just not going to finish. They just carried it over from SmackDown to this show, and it's just not going to end. So, I'm fine with it. Yeah, it's one of those where because I'm not really taking investment in it, I can't really feel any emotion to it, rather than this match was a bit of silly fun. For me, there's no other takeaway. It was a bit of silly fun. I've got no moany feelings to does this feud is to end, and they're never gonna move on. I was like, I don't really care. It was a bit of silly fun. I enjoyed myself watching the silly fun. I've got no other commentary on that. So yes, yeah. Anyway, I saw some people say, "Oh, the guitar pick thing that wouldn't hurt." Have you used a guitar pick? They are plastic, like curved. Yes, they're curved on the end, but it's still relatively spiky. If I got no, you won't be able to see my calluses. But yeah, the guitar pick thing that would hurt. Yes, obviously. Anyway, the bit after that was Keith Lee and Riddle rambled at their little meeting backstage, which then led us into the first match that made me think, I might struggle with this show. It was Ricochet versus Slapjack, aka a main event match, as in the show main event, somehow makes it onto Raw. Before the match, Ali cut a promo on Richard not joining Retribution and facing the consequences henceforth. From Slapjack, Yeah, Ricochet will be fine, lads. Mustafa Ali in the match tried to work the distraction, but Dana Brooke showed up with a message for Mia Yim. What is her? I've legit forgotten her crap gimmick name. Reckoning. That's it. In the form of a slap to Mustafa Ali. Ricochet then ran Riot on Retribution, taking down each man one by one, before Slapjack won with a roll-up. Retribution's most dangerous move. And also, they're most susceptible. Oh, it's a balancing act. It's their strongest strength in terms of victories, also their greatest weakness. That's not the story they're telling, that's the story I've been told. So I like that. Yeah, there's more Retribution later, so I can go into them when I talk about the Mia Yim match, but yeah, I had a bit of a laugh of Slapjack winning with a roll-up before later in the show. Mia Yim, you losers to a roll-up. Well, I did like at least Mia Yim attacking Dana Brooke, taking her out of Survivor Series, and then this week Dana Brooke's like, no, I want to fight her. Yeah, I like that continuity. And in these past few years, that would have been dropped. But this year, there is some attention to detail. It's a massive... Again, for me, in terms of like world building, they're not... Again, Raw's not at a point where I can compare it to, for me, NXT or AEW. Or New Japan or whatever. But it's a massive improvement over the past few years. I can't ignore that. This show now is not 2019 bad. It is... So, for me, it's like miles better. Anyway, before I get into the next segment, do I like Drew McIntyre's new attire? Drew McIntyre. There we go. Do I like Drew's McIntyre? Yes, I do. I need to pass that on to Ash. That's a top pun, that one. Remember, it's side cancel. Drew McIntyre. Anyway, let's get off that tangent. I'll be on that one for a little while. I do like it. Yes. I think what helped with it was it came with the new entrance. It came with the Claymore Sword Fire entrance, apparently, which was meticulously put together with like Drew and Vince working for ages to get the timing like perfect, and with the fire and everything. I think who was Drew talking to? He was interviewed by an outlet. It might have just been like Fox News in America or something. It would be Fox's sports stuff, whatever it is. And I think he just said that he was thinking, yeah, I wear a kilt, I'll make it special. Next thing he knows, he's got a Claymore sword and his fire and and everything. I feel like that helped kind of just add to this new presentation for Drew McIntyre as he feels like a top guy, and it solidifies it. So yeah, yes, I'm totally in for it. But also, don't let me forget the Drew McIntyre pun. I need to remember that, because I won't. Again, I'm on 4 hours sleep. I'm going to forget this show as soon as it's done. Anyway, Asuka and Lana versus Shayna Bazer and Nia Jax. Fair to say this match had a tad of sloppiness to it. Asuka and Baszler were solid as usual, but the Lana and Nia mistimings, they didn't break the match or anything, but they did provide a tad of a chuckle, which means I've been taken out of it a bit. The babyfaces scoring the win for the second week in a row as Lana scores the upset pin due to Nia being so tunnel-visioned on the Survivor Series Sole Survivor. Lana may be the clear weaker competitor on her team, but Jax is becoming more and more the weakness of hers. And you know what? I kind of like that role reversal. Nia slowly becoming the exact thing she was criticising as Shayna brews her anger in the background. I was like, yeah, I really like that. And Shayna's going to kick her out as the weak link she's becoming because of her fixation on Lana. Like, yes. It's the thing that's actually going somewhere. And I can see an arc taking place. I just, because the commentators haven't outright said it, I just hope it's actually happening. It's not me reading into something. So, yeah. Anyway, after that we got, I guess, a little bit of a gripe, even though I'm enjoying them. The Xavier Woods versus Cedric Alexander. Have I missed any segments backstage? I don't think I have. So, Xavier Woods was joined by Kofi Kingston and Cedric Alexander joined by MVP and Shelton Benjamin of the Hurt Business. No Bobby Lashley, we would see him later. And as the Hurt Business make their way out, where are the other teams? Shouts Woods as the Hurt Business's theme plays. It's like, yeah, my sentiment exactly. At least we weren't given like Shelty B Cedric versus New Day again. At least we didn't get that for the third week in a row. And fourth since the draft, as in not fourth week in a row, but it's the fourth time since the draft and the third week in a row. Just, again, the reason it really sticks out now is because I watch when you watch AEW, you see how rotation works perfectly fine and you keep a feud alive without getting tired of the feud by the time it happens on pay-per-view. Case in point here, I do not want to see New Day vs Hurt Business at TLC anymore because I've seen it 3 times. Seen it 3 times before we get there, and also we've seen the different singles matches between them as well. So they've all been interacting with the same people. And that's my kind of praise for NXT and AEW. When you have like a tag team world or whatever, they face different people. And they still have the rivalry, they'll still interact, but they're not in the ring against the same people every single week till the pay-per-view where you again see them in the same people. And I thought before, like it's not exactly a match here tonight that freshened things up, but at least they didn't give us the exact same match again. Like edging closer and closer to hitting those Street Profits versus Andrade and Garza fatigue levels in like record time. Like, want to know why numbers of WWE viewers, including myself, tire of rivalries so quickly? This is exactly why. There is no mix, like just the lack of mixing it up during the feud. And then the feud change is the mixing it up. It just means we get tired of feuds because we're seeing the exact same people interact oftentimes in the exact same matches every single week, one after the other. Just, you don't have to do that. Case in point is both NXT and AEW. And then I keep bringing up NXT and not just saying AEW because it's like, it's happening in your own company. It is a case in point of, yeah, you can bug a tag division. I mean, what to be fair, it's the type of thing where the person in charge has to actually care about the tag division. And that's like one of the number one things, it's pretty clear. Vince McMahon has just never really cared for it. And that's what happens with this. You end up with the same small group of people just constantly wrestling each other. As Xavier Woods shouts, where are the other tag teams? And it's like, yeah, when the person in charge doesn't really care. And you see the attention to a detail elsewhere. So I'm not saying, it's because Vince is out of touch, can't do things anymore. No, I'm clearly seeing it in the main event. But in the tag scene, you can see the lack of attention to detail. So you're running the same stuff over and over again, and you just get tired with it. But the match was great. Like, the match itself was strong yet again. I call it a nice showcase for Woods, even though he lost. Like, he's probably the one member of the New Day who could really benefit from such a solo showing. However, the momentum swung against him after Alexander impressively countered a dive and sent the lad crashing into the barricade, back in the ring, and followed up with the lumbar check for the win. After the match, a gaff or a character bit? I couldn't tell. As Cedric, all caught up in the emotion of the win, runs up the ramp, just tensing his muscles, like, yeah, I did it! Like, yes! And I told you, yeah! And he's tensing his muscles and stuff. Up on the ramp, as MVP and Shelton are in the ring, like, what's he doing? It's just like, hey, I mean, they look like, they were like, well, the segment was meant to end with us raising Cedric's hand or something, and now he's doing his own thing. So what do we do? Or that was the segment, and Cedric wasn't with them. Was like, what's he doing? And that was what was meant to happen. So, yeah. Either way, it's happened. It's either a little thing showing that Cedric is still not perfectly aligned with the group. Nah, I don't know which way to go into it. Anyway, after that, I finally make it to the segment that I started. Finally get to talk about it. It's Retribution time, everybody. I was about to say the first line of their theme, and then nope, it's not there. No idea what that is. Dana Brooke versus Mia Yim, and again, nice to see continuity from before Survivor Series. I just assumed after Survivor Series, just pushed out a canon, just doesn't exist anymore. But no, continuity. It's nice. 2 Retribution matches in one show. And they didn't look strong in either. Yay! So far, their deadliest weapon's been the roll-up, and as I said earlier, also their greatest curse. Shortly followed by a straight-up loss. So yeah, right now for me, Retribution, they feel like jobbers. And my prediction from, I want to say, a month or 2 ago, was at the Royal Rumble, Retribution, quick eliminations like the jobbers they are. And Royal Rumble will be where, as in, that will affirm it. At the Royal Rumble, they'll get eliminated quickly like jobbers, and for me that affirms it. That's it. At the Royal Rumble is where their momentum fully dies. That is my prediction. So yeah, that's what I'm going with. And oh wait, yes, you're right. I've got notes on one more segment after this match. Yes, thank you for the chat to point that out. Anyway, so, yeah. And so how was this match? How was Dana Brooke versus Mia Yim? Well, Mia Yim's mask fell off almost immediately. Great. The comedy of it, commentary not even bringing it up, and in unison my entire timeline was just like, oh my god, it's Mia Yim all this time? It's been her? That's crazy. It's like, yeah, I love that. But also, it did just make me laugh that commentary didn't even note that her mask had fallen off. Like, it's that inconsequential for everything. Also, it also just paints Retribution. The whole group was also painted as inconsequential because a thing that was popped up as like a major part of their kind of presentation falls off, not even mentioned. Just pretend just ignore it's happened. All right, all right then. Yeah. Anyway, Ali tries a distraction. It doesn't work. As Mia Yim tries to follow up and charge with a high boot. Doesn't work, and instead she gets rolled up to lose her debut via roll-up from Dana Brooke. At least Retribution has some consistency. They lose all the time. Hooray. But I prefer the story that their greatest weapon is also their strongest curse and weakness in the roll-up. I love, comedically, I love that. That could be a thing. It's not a thing, but that's the group for me now. So, yeah. Anyway... then we got The Miz and Morrison trying to bribe with pie. And finally, the final thing to talk about is the fact that they are building up to Matt Riddle MVP. Matt Riddle was backstage recovering from his loss earlier in the show. MVP rocks up to rub in the loss. Riddle, obviously just enthusiastic, gives the man some more business ideas. This time with I was pretty certain it was a lawnmower hire service. Like, something about rocking up with a van full of lawnmowers and we'll clean the place off. It's just, yeah, continuing awful ideas. And that's what I think it was. Repeating the same segment from last week, with Riddle's exact reactions to MVP shutdown on all. It's like, huh? This time, not cracking MVP, but obviously because it cracked him last week, he gets another stab at it. But this time, Bobby Lee lashes out and locks in the Hurt Lock as he throws the man about. The Hurt Business with a short and sweet message. To Matt Riddle. I'm building up Matt Riddle versus I assume MVP. I don't know if Bobby Lashley getting inserted there he's going to go for the US title at TLC maybe. But yeah, for me the big one is Lashley versus Keith Lee. I'd love to see. I mean, we did see it last week on Raw, but we had the finish taken away from us. So to actually get a finish, maybe even WrestleMania, like Keith Lee wins the title. Because the other stuff is all kind of starting to fall in stone a little bit, I'm assuming. I hope they, like, for me personally, whenever I've tried to picture stuff in my head, I do it from like November to WrestleMania specifically, from trying to think when would you start doing, if you're WWE, when would you start doing stuff? And it's like going to Survivor Series and then, well, bang, you can introduce your slowly building stuff after Survivor Series, then your quick stuff, or full throttle, or down the fast lane at Royal Rumble afterwards. And yeah, with me, Keith Lee go for the US title. Fine with that. That's what I do. Just because he's not going to fall into the WWE Championship picture, and I'd be scared of him falling out of the stuff completely if he's not going for the title. But I felt like that match with Bobby Lashley was a nice little teaser without giving it all away. Then you can have the two big lads collide at WrestleMania. Depending, of course, who knows what state the world's going to be in come then. And I guess there's one final piece of news was I think it was this weekend. There's going to be a decision as to whether WWE are allowed a capacity of sorts for the Royal Rumble in January, which is only a month away now. And apparently that decision is going to be next week. It's either this week or this weekend. It will be ruled whether they can have fans in for the event. And yeah, because again, I reckon it will go through because Florida's been pretty with it. Yeah, so maybe it'll go through. I'm not extremely versed, but if I'm right, it was this weekend or maybe this week that is going to be happening. Anyway, so keep your eye on that. It might have an attended show for the Royal Rumble. Doesn't mean it's wise, but it might happen. So yeah, we never hear football grounds are allowing. I think it was a max of 2,000 or 10% of your capacity. I think it was. So of course the lower league clubs, because again football here massive, like there's like 4 divisions, then there's the conference below that. So non-league football as well is a big thing. So 10% of their thing would not be 2,000, but you can't go over 2,000. So for your big clubs with your 50, 70,000 seat arenas, they can only have 2,000. Which again, I feel like that's smart to kind of drip feed it in if you're going to. Doesn't mean it's like actually wise to do it, but you know they're doing it. So I'm saying it's happening in my country, so I can't criticise it too much. Like if it happens in Florida, it is happening here in the UK as well, allowing certain numbers of fans. Obviously, we're at 2 very different points of dealing with a pandemic in our countries. But I thought I'd at least bring up that comparison, because I'm critiquing from a country that is also letting fans back in, starting I think next week. I think it was next week. Yeah. Anyway, in terms of the review of Raw, I thought the main event stuff was great. For me, a little bit too much repetition in the middle. Retribution, they just fully feel like jobbers to me now. So for me, they have 0 momentum, and my prediction is they die at Royal Rumble momentum-wise. Just they fully become jobbers, and that sucks because like every member of that group is great. It's just they've just been the gimmick was dead. It's as soon as they came up with those masks, it's like it's a miracle it's still going on. And me improved, don't even need the masks. When they fell off, no one cared. Just didn't acknowledge it had happened. So, but the arc was Mustafa Ali shouting at her for losing the mask. Retribution don't lose. Yeah, they do. Consistently. But yeah. But my Retribution story is their greatest weapon is also their greatest curse. How will they survive? Will they be able to survive teetering on such an obstacle? Anyway, that's a massive tangent. That's the end of the review. As you can tell, I've been babbling on for about 5 minutes. Yeah, decent Raw. That's what it's meant to be doing. It's meant to be reviewing a final kind of takeaway bit, sentence, phrase for my overall review of the show. Main event stuff is grand. The rest is skippable. There you go. Which is, I would, because these last 2 weeks I've just solidly enjoyed. It's like, no, the shows have flowed really well. I really enjoyed them. This was a week a bit further back to the middle of the card for me. Just felt very fillery. But the stuff to do with the WWE Championship was all great. So that's why it's like a positive negative review. Yeah, as a show overall, for me this is one of those you watch on YouTube. But just watch the WWE Championship stuff. There's not really any point in watching the rest of it. That would include though quite a few segments. And I guess the Randy Orton and the Fiend is slowly building to something. So obviously it's in the slowly building point. So again, you can watch that on YouTube. Don't need to watch the entire show for that. So yeah, to be fair, that's still my recommendation for Raw, because the past 2 weeks they for me were outliers, and I was like, oh my god, I'm actually enjoying the flow of a Raw show. That's great. But with the norm, is my recommendation is just pick the segments you want from YouTube. That's how I recommend you watch Raw. Like my recommendation at the moment still isn't watch the show, because for me, off this entire era, they've done 2 shows, and in the past 2, they're the ones that I really found easy to watch. I'll say that. But anyway, that's the end of the review of a decent Raw, just packed full of a bit too chunky with filler, but built TLC really nicely, which as we found out is on the 20th of December, so that's only 18 days away. That's really not that long. Christmas is going to rock it up quick. Anyway, with that, I am going to go get some sleep because I desperately need it. I feel like I did all right. We'll see. When I go and do it back in editing, I might cringe at the tiredness. Did I say anything stupid? We'll find out. Anyway, I'll be back here on this channel on Thursday with the NXT review. Might be joined by somebody. I've not. I need to double check that. And I will be live on Twitch. Obviously, I'm live on Twitch. Thank you. Yes, good review live stream. Thank you very much. Means a lot. I'm fine. I can still read it. I'm so tired. Eyes are so blurry. Anyway, I'll be back on this channel of the NXT review on Thursday. Tomorrow, if you want to see more me, I'll be on the Wrestling Shorts Twitch account, live streaming some FIFA with Ash of Wrestling Shorts. Site accounts will remind me of my amazing Drew McIntyre pun, because I will forget it. Hopefully, me saying it so many times, I won't forget it. But again, I'm on 4 hours sleep. Who knows what I'll remember? Come tomorrow. And yeah, so with that, I say thank you for watching, listening. You can follow me on Twitter at the Damn Impercat. That's damn as in damn. You can donate on RedCircle if you do so wish so. I'm not going to force anyone to do that. There's a link on the RedCircle post. I'll put the RedCircle link. I think there's a link in the description to take you to RedCircle. I should probably put a link, just a direct link, and make it so much easier rather than leading people through hoops. Anyway, that's specifically for the radio stuff. If you want to donate to that, I'm not going to push anyone to do that. But I will be back on Thursday with some NXT. So with that, I say thank you for listening. This is what I tried to do earlier. Listening, watching, 5-star reviewing, subscribing, clicking the bell, and I feel like I've forgotten something else, but if you did it, thank you. So with that, I'll bid you adieu. Adios.